There is a moment in history quiet, almost hidden when the world flickers and a single mind steps forward from the shadows. A mind unlike any other. A mind that believed electricity was not simply a force, but a language. A language the universe had been speaking since the beginning of time. His name was Nikola Tesla, and long before the modern world understood him, he was already listening to whispers carried by lightning. Tesla lived in a reality that most people never see. To him, the night sky was a vast electrical ocean. Thunderstorms were living organisms. Invisible currents pulsed beneath every surface, waiting to be harnessed, shaped, and set free. While others observed the world, Tesla entered it, stepping into the hidden architecture of energy, calculating patterns that seemed to come from somewhere beyond ordinary thought. Ideas arrived fully formed, like distant signals transmitted directly into his mind. He did not invent through trial and error. He remembered, but genius is a lonely frequency, and Tesla walked through life tuned to a channel no one else could hear. In a small room lit by blue sparks, surrounded by strange machines that hummed like dreaming creatures, he pushed the limits of what humans believed possible. Wireless energy, global power, machines that spoke to the Earth's magnetic pulse, visions of a future lit not by fire, but by pure dancing current. Many called him a visionary, some called him mad. Yet, every night, as the world slept, Tesla stepped deeper into the labyrinth of his imagination, guided by equations that glowed behind his eyes like constellations. And tonight, you will follow him there, into the silent chambers of his mind, into the strange beauty of electricity, into the life of a man who tried not only to understand the world, but to remake it. There are lives that begin quietly, like a faint spark in the darkness, and only later reveal the storm they contain. Nikola Tesla's life began in such a spark. Born during a violent lightning storm in a small village in the Balkans, the midwives whispered that the child was claimed by light. His mother, calm and steady, simply said, "He will be a child of the storm." It was a sentence that would follow him through every moment of his life, because even as a boy, Tesla did not see the world the way others did. He saw motion where others saw stillness, patterns where others saw chaos, and invisible forces weaving through the air like threads of light, connecting everything to everything else. As a child, Tesla often sat alone by the river, watching currents swirl around stones. Where others saw water flowing, he saw equations, spirals, harmonics, invisible pathways carved by nature itself. He spoke of images that appeared fully formed in his mind. Machines, gears, rotating coils of copper glowing with energy. When he closed his eyes, these visions did not fade. They expanded, spinning slowly like constellations. He later described his imagination as a living world, one that he could enter at will, walking through ideas as if they were real rooms filled with real light. To him, the boundary between thought and invention was thin, almost non-existent. Tesla's mother played a profound role in shaping this inner world. Though never formally educated, she had an intuitive genius for mechanical things. She built tools, crafted intricate devices with her hands, and remembered long passages of poetry with flawless precision. Tesla watched her work by the warm glow of lamplight, mesmerized by the quiet confidence in her movements. She taught him that invention begins not with metal or wires, but with attention, with the ability to see what others overlook. Her calm presence became the grounding force that balanced Tesla's storm-like mind, showing him that imagination must flow gently if it is to take form. Yet childhood was not easy for him. He suffered from vivid hallucinations, sudden flashes of light, bursts of color, sounds that seemed to come from nowhere. These visions frightened him at first, but slowly he learned to navigate them, to shape them, to use them as tools. What others might have considered a disorder, Tesla turned into a gift. His mind worked like a laboratory with no walls, his thoughts unfolding like slow, deliberate experiments. Every idea was tested in silence, perfected in imagination, and refined long before it ever touched the physical world. This ability, this silent architecture of thought, would later become the foundation of all his inventions. There were nights when Tesla walked alone beneath the stars, letting the sky quiet his racing mind. He listened to the hum of insects, the soft murmur of wind against the grass, the distant rumble of storms rolling across the hills. In these moments, he began to feel that the world was speaking to him not with words, but with frequencies, and he believed that if he could learn this language, he could change the world. These quiet walks, these soft nights of contemplation, became the hidden beginning of a life that would one day awaken currents across continents. And so Tesla grew, a boy shaped by silence, storms, and the strange beauty of invisible forces. While others dreamed of simple futures, he dreamed of harnessing the very threads that move the universe. His childhood did not produce inventions yet, but it produced something far more powerful, the mind of a man who would one day try to give the world free energy, wireless power, and a future lit not by flame, but by the shimmering breath of electricity itself. As Nikola Tesla grew older, his inner world expanded into something vast and luminous, so luminous, in fact, that sleep rarely found him. While most people dream only when they close their eyes, Tesla seemed to dream even while awake. Ideas came not as fragments, but as entire systems, descending into his mind with the clarity of a remembered melody. It was as though his thoughts traveled on currents of their own, flowing through pathways no one else had discovered. Night after night, he sat alone in dim rooms lit only by a candle or the moonlight drifting through a window, sketching machines not on paper but in his imagination. He believed that the mind, when quiet enough, could become an instrument of precision, capable of seeing the unseen. Tesla later said he could build machines entirely in his mind, run them, test them, wear them down, adjust them, and watch them function with absolute accuracy, all without lifting a tool. To him, imagination was not a place of abstraction. It was a workshop, a laboratory, a complete engineering environment. He could spin a motor in his thoughts and observe the glow of heat on its casing, the friction in its bearings, the vibration of its coils. When the machine worked perfectly in his inner world, only then would he consider touching the physical materials. This extraordinary mental ability allowed Tesla to work in silence for days, sometimes weeks, without ever appearing to create anything. Yet when he finally did, it was already complete. But genius has its shadows. Tesla began to withdraw from the noise of the world, seeking the quiet in which thoughts moved most freely. He avoided loud gatherings, rushed conversations, and anything that disrupted the delicate frequencies of his mind. He spoke softly, though his ideas roared. He walked slowly, though his thoughts raced like lightning crossing the sky, and because he sensed the world with such intensity, even small disturbances felt overwhelming. A flickering light, a sudden noise, a bright reflection. All of these could fracture his concentration, so Tesla crafted a life of deliberate solitude, knowing that silence was the only environment in which his mind could roam without resistance. During this period, he also developed an unusual sensitivity to light and sound. Bright lamps hurt him, sudden noises startled him deeply, yet thunderstorms violent, flashing, booming filled him with peace. While others sought shelter, Tesla stepped closer to the storm, watching the sky open and close in wild arcs of electricity. He felt that lightning spoke in a language he was destined to understand. Each flash was a pulse, each thunderclap a vibration, and somewhere within that storm-born rhythm, he sensed a hidden order. These nights became a kind of meditation for him, moments when the world and his mind resonated at the same frequency. Despite these sensitivities, Tesla was extraordinarily disciplined. He ate lightly, slept rarely, and worked with a focus that bordered on the superhuman. Hours passed like minutes when he was deep in thought. Days slipped quietly into nights, unnoticed. Colleagues often found him standing perfectly still, lost in a waterfall of internal calculations. In those moments, he did not speak, he did not move. He simply existed in a kind of mental suspension, calm, receptive, connected to something deeper than consciousness. This was Tesla's true laboratory, the place where every breakthrough began, the silent realm within. And as his inner abilities sharpened, the world around him began to change. Electricity was becoming a new frontier, dangerous, uncharted, full of possibility. And soon, Tesla would step onto that frontier with a vision so bold that it would challenge everything humanity believed about energy. But before he could reshape the world, he first had to survive the intensity of his own mind, a mind that never rested, never dimmed, never stopped reaching for the invisible patterns woven through reality. When Tesla left his quiet childhood landscapes and stepped into the world of formal education, something awakened within him, something bright, restless, and relentless. In the lecture halls of engineering schools, he finally met ideas that resonated with the strange architecture of his mind. Electricity, magnetism, rotating fields. Concepts that many found confusing appeared to Tesla as familiar shapes, as if he had seen them long before encountering them in books. While his classmates struggled to understand equations, Tesla saw visions, swirling vortexes of force, invisible spirals of energy moving around coils and wires like living currents. It felt less like learning and more like remembering. During one fateful lecture, his professor mocked the possibility of creating a motor without brushes or commutators, insisting that such a device was impossible. The classroom laughed, but Tesla went silent. In that moment, as his teacher dismissed the idea, an image burst into his mind with the force of lightning, a motor powered not by contact, but by a rotating magnetic field. The idea glowed vividly behind his eyes, spinning with perfect clarity. He saw its shape, its movement, the way current would glide through its coils. It felt as if the universe had whispered a secret directly to him. That night, he could not sleep, the image replayed endlessly, unfolding into a blueprint that would one day transform the world. Tesla later described these visions as a flash, a sudden illumination that filled him with a sense of inevitability, as though the invention already existed somewhere, waiting for him to bring it into the physical world. He walked for hours, tracing invisible diagrams in the air with his hands. The city around him blurred into a soft haze. His thoughts hummed with frequencies only he could perceive. And with each step, the motor grew more complete, coil by coil, rotation by rotation, until he could hear it running in his mind. This was the birth of the alternating current system, a discovery that would electrify continents and rewrite the future. But while his mind soared, Tesla's physical life grew increasingly strained. He pushed himself beyond exhaustion, studying late into the night until the print on the pages blurred and his candle burned low. He forgot to eat. He neglected rest. The intensity of his imagination demanded everything he had. And when his body finally faltered, he retreated into long, solitary walks, searching for a rhythm that could calm the storm of ideas within him. In the quiet of those walks, he felt the presence of something vast and intelligence woven into the universe, a pattern that he believed could be decoded if one listened closely enough. It was during one of these solitary nights that Tesla first envisioned wireless power. Standing on a hill, watching distant lightning crawl across the horizon, he imagined the Earth itself as a conductor, an enormous sphere humming with potential energy. He saw towers rising from the ground, sending currents not through wires but through the air itself. He imagined lamps glowing without cords, machines running without contact, entire cities lit by the breath of the planet. This vision, though impossible to others, felt inevitable to him. In the fabric of the storm-lit sky, he sensed a future trying to reveal itself. And so Tesla carried his visions in silence, waiting for the moment he could reshape the world. Each idea was a seed of electricity, a small spark waiting to ignite. But the world was not yet ready for the storm of invention that lived inside him. Still, Tesla moved forward quiet, focused, and filled with a sense of purpose that no one around him could fully understand. He knew that his life would not be ordinary. He knew that the invisible forces he felt since childhood were calling him towards something extraordinary. And with that knowledge, he prepared to step into a new chapter, one where imagination would collide with reality, and where the world would finally begin to see the brilliance that had been glowing within him all along. There are moments in a person's life when everything changes with a single decision, when the world as they know it dissolves, and a new chapter begins like the quiet inhale before a storm. For Nikola Tesla, that moment came in 1884, when he stepped onto a ship bound for America with nothing but a few coins, a book of poetry, and a head filled with visions the world was not yet ready to comprehend. Seas were rough that week, and the sky churned with grey clouds, but Tesla spent his nights on the deck, staring into the darkness as if reading invisible equations hidden in the waves. He believed America was a land of possibility, a place where a mind like his could finally speak in the language of invention without being silenced by doubt. When Tesla arrived in New York, the city greeted him with the hum of electrical dreams just beginning to form. Street lamps flickered hesitantly in the night. Generators rattled in crowded workshops. Power lines hummed with the newborn heartbeat of a changing world. And standing at the center of this transformation was Thomas Edison, brilliant, driven, and already famous for lighting the first streets of Manhattan. Tesla admired Edison's determination, but the two men belonged to different worlds. Edison built by experimentation, forging ahead through trial and error. Tesla built by vision, designing entire systems in his mind before touching a single tool. They were like two ends of a magnet drawn together, yet destined to repel. In Edison's workshop, Tesla worked tirelessly, repairing machines, redesigning motors, and offering ideas that seemed too advanced, too elegant, too impossible. Edison respected his talent but mistrusted his imagination. And Tesla, quiet and slender, with eyes that seemed to look through walls, moved like someone who lived halfway between reality and a world made of equations. He rarely slept. He rarely ate. And yet he glowed with a strange vitality, as if electricity itself flowed through him. People found him mysterious, unpredictable, brilliant, a mind illuminated from within. But friction grew quickly. Edison was committed to direct current, safe, simple, grounded. Tesla saw its limits instantly. DC could light a street, but not a nation. It could power a building, but not a world. Tesla knew that alternating current, free-flowing, oscillating, elegant, held the key to the future. AC was like a river. It pulsed, it resonated, it traveled across great distances with minimal loss. In his mind, he saw entire continents powered by invisible waves of energy. And yet, no one believed him. Not yet. His ideas seemed too vast, too abstract, too ambitious for a world just learning to flip a switch. When the final dispute came, Tesla walked away from Edison's workshop with empty pockets but an unbroken spirit. The night he left, he wandered through the streets of New York, letting the city's faint electrical glow reflect in his tired eyes. He was alone, exhausted, and nearly penniless, but still, the world inside his mind burned bright. He whispered to himself that energy should not be confined to small rooms or tangled wires. It should move freely, like wind, like water, like light. And in that whisper lived the seed of the revolution to come. In the quiet hours before dawn, Tesla stood by the East River, watching the reflections tremble on the water's surface. The city was silent. The stars above were dimmed by smoke, yet in those delicate ripples, he felt the presence of possibility. He believed that if he followed his vision, if he trusted the strange, luminous patterns that had guided him since childhood, he could reshape the future. It was a fragile moment, a moment suspended between despair and destiny, and slowly, gently, the balance tipped toward destiny, because soon the world would hear his ideas. Soon, electricity would take on a new shape, his shape. And soon, Nikola Tesla would begin the work that would define him as one of the greatest minds to ever walk the earth. After leaving Edison's workshop, Tesla entered one of the most difficult periods of his life. New York was cold, crowded, unforgiving. He worked manual labor to survive, digging ditches during the day and returning to a small rented room at night, where he sat in silence, turning problems over and over in his mind. The world saw a man with worn clothes and empty pockets, but inside that thin, quiet figure lived the rotating magnetic field, the idea that would electrify the century. Even in exhaustion, Tesla's thoughts glowed with the rhythm of alternating currents. They pulsed behind his eyes like a second heartbeat. They refused to leave him, even when he struggled to stand. Tesla never resented these difficult days. Instead, he watched them with a kind of serene detachment, as though they were another experiment, something to observe, to understand, to endure. He believed that adversity sharpened the mind, allowing ideas to rise more clearly from the depths. And one evening, as dusk settled over the city, Tesla's fate shifted. A former employer introduced him to a group of investors intrigued by his ideas. They were skeptical at first, uncertain whether this soft-spoken inventor could truly reshape electrical engineering. But Tesla, with his calm intensity and luminous explanations, spoke of AC power not as speculation, but as a vision already fully alive inside him. When investors agreed to fund his work, Tesla returned to his natural environment, a workshop filled with coils, iron cores, copper windings, and the warm blue glow of electrical arcs dancing in the air. It was there that he built his first fully functional alternating current motor. Sleek, silent, elegant, a machine that rotated not because of brushes or friction, but because of invisible fields spinning in perfect harmony. Watching it turn, Tesla felt as if he were witnessing the universe speaking through metal, a quiet confirmation that his lifelong visions had been real. In that gentle rotation, the future shifted. News of Tesla's motor echoed through the scientific world, reaching the ears of George Westinghouse, an engineer and businessman with a visionary streak of his own. When Westinghouse visited Tesla's lab, he was stunned. The motor spun smoothly, silently, as if guided by an unseen hand. Tesla spoke softly about the future cities powered from miles away, factories humming without strain, mountains lit with electric fire from distant generators. Westinghouse saw not a dreamer, but a prophet of energy, and in that moment he knew alternating current was the future. He purchased Tesla's patents and offered him a partnership that would reshape the world. Together, Tesla and Westinghouse stood against Edison in what history would call the War of Currents. Edison campaigned fiercely, claiming AC was dangerous, unpredictable, too powerful. Newspapers filled with alarming stories, demonstrations attempted to frighten the public. Yet Tesla remained tranquil, almost serene. He demonstrated AC's safety, holding glowing lamps in his hands, letting current flow through his body like a whisper of light. He trusted the physics. He trusted the vision he carried since youth. And slowly, the world began to trust it too. The turning point came when Tesla and Westinghouse won the contract to power the world's Columbian Exposition of 1893. When evening fell and thousands of electric lamps flickered on at once, the fairgrounds transformed into a luminous ocean of white light spreading across the night. Visitors gasped, some wept, others stood frozen beneath the glow, unable to comprehend the beauty of a world suddenly illuminated. That night, alternating current became the heartbeat of modern civilization, and Tesla, standing quietly in the distance, watched his vision unfold with calm satisfaction, as if he had always known this moment would come. And as the fair's lights shimmered across the dark Chicago sky, Tesla felt something extraordinary, the sense that for the first time, the world was beginning to see the invisible patterns he had carried within him since childhood. Patterns that would soon lead him toward even greater mysteries, toward wireless power, toward resonant energy, toward dreams that would blur the boundary between science and imagination. Following the triumph of the World's Fair, Tesla entered the most electrifying chapter of his life. one where imagination and technology merged into a single luminous vision. Alternating current had conquered the world, but Tesla's mind did not rest on victory. He felt something larger calling him, a possibility that shimmered just beyond the reach of conventional science. He believed electricity should not be confined to wires or metal paths. It should flow through the air itself, freely, effortlessly, like wind or sunlight. To most people, this idea sounded like fantasy. But to Tesla, it was as natural as breathing. He felt the earth vibrating with energy. He felt the atmosphere pulsing with frequency. And in the quiet hours of night, he whispered to himself the belief that one day, the entire world would be connected by invisible currents. To explore this new frontier, Tesla built a laboratory unlike any the world had seen. Inside it, towering coils rose toward the ceiling spiral columns, humming with potential. When Tesla activated them, they unleashed arcs of electricity that danced through the air like living serpents of blue-white fire. Lightning leapt from metal to metal, from coil to coil, filling the room with a crackling symphony that made the walls glow faintly in the dark. In this chamber of controlled storms, Tesla felt completely at home. The sound of sparks was not noise to him, it was music. The smell of ozone was not harsh, it was comforting. And the light that erupted from his machines was not threatening, it was beautiful, like the shimmering breath of the sky captured in human hands. His experiments grew bolder. Lamps lit without wires. Motors spun across the room without being connected to anything. Tesla demonstrated that energy could be transmitted through the air by tuning machines to the same resonant frequency, much like striking one tuning fork and causing another to vibrate in response. This principle of resonance became his guiding star. He believed that the planet itself was a giant conductor, capable of carrying energy across its surface. If he could build a transmitter powerful enough, one that resonated with the natural frequency of the Earth, then anyone, anywhere, could tap into limitless energy. He imagined farms lit at night, remote homes powered without wires, ships moving across oceans guided by beams of unseen force, a world of connection illuminated by the gentle hum of free electricity. But while Tesla's ideas soared across continents in his mind, the world below struggled to keep pace. Policymakers, investors, and businessmen found his visions overwhelming. They could accept lamps, motors, and industrial systems. But a world powered by invisible waves, energy available to everyone, freely challenged the foundations of commerce. Why build power plants if power could be drawn from the air? Why sell electricity if the sky itself offered it without cost? The boldness of Tesla's ideas frightened those who lived by profit. And slowly, quietly, their hesitation began to carve barriers around his dream. Still, Tesla pressed forward. At night, he often walked alone, listening to the soft hum of distant transformers, feeling the sky above him tremble with the charge of unseen forces. He imagined a future where towers rose from every continent, slender, majestic structures sending pulses of energy across oceans and deserts. He believed that just as wireless communication would connect voices, wireless power would connect lives. He saw a world without darkness, without limitation, without scarcity, and this vision warmed him during the long hours when doubt crept near. Tesla's dream of wireless power was not merely technological, it was philosophical. He wanted humanity to be free from hunger, from cold, from dependence on limited resources. He believed that energy was the birthright of all people, not the property of a few, and so he worked tirelessly, shaping coils, adjusting frequencies, and listening to the subtle whisper of electricity flowing around him. In these moments, surrounded by light and silence, Tesla felt closest to the universe, closest to the invisible pulse that he had sensed since childhood. Yet the world was beginning to turn. Some supported him, others feared him, and soon his grandest dream would lead him toward one of the most ambitious and fateful projects of his life. At the dawn of a new century, Tesla embarked on the boldest experiment of his life, one that would stand as both his greatest hope and his deepest heartbreak. On a quiet stretch of land in Shoreham, New York, he began constructing a massive tower rising from the earth like the trunk of a metallic tree, crowned with a gleaming copper dome. Its name was Wardenclyffe, but Tesla called it something else in private moments: the world system. To him, this tower was not merely architecture, it was the first step toward a new era, a gateway to a world connected by invisible currents of power and information. He believed that Wardenclyffe would hum with the same resonance he sensed in the sky during thunderstorms, a place where the earth and atmosphere could vibrate together, carrying energy across continents. The tower itself was a masterpiece of engineering. Beneath its surface stretched a network of deep iron pipes driven into the ground, designed to connect with the conductive layers of the earth. Above, the copper sphere was meant to send electromagnetic waves into the sky, creating a bridge between soil and atmosphere, between the physical world and the ether Tesla believed contained limitless energy. When he walked beneath the tower, listening to the faint hum of its unfinished skeleton, Tesla felt as if he were standing inside the heart of a sleeping giant. The air around it always seemed different, charged, quiet, waiting. Tesla envisioned a planet illuminated not by cables and power stations, but by pure resonance. Energy rising from the ground like water from a spring. Light blooming in lamps miles away with no wires to feed them. Signals traveling around the globe instantly, connecting every corner of humanity. He even imagined ships guided by remote control, telephones speaking across oceans without resistance, and homes powered by the natural frequency of the earth itself. In Wardenclyffe, Tesla saw not a tower, but an entire world, one shaped by harmony, abundance, and connection. But the world he lived in was bound by economics. And free energy, though beautiful in theory, was terrifying to those who profited from its scarcity. J.P. Morgan, the financier who initially supported the project, began to withdraw when he realized Tesla's vision offered no way to meter, control, or monetize the flow of power. "If anyone can take electricity from the air," he reportedly asked, "where do we put the meter?" It was a question that haunted the tower's future. Slowly, funding evaporated, workers left, construction halted, and Wardenclyffe Tesla's great dream began to stand still under the weight of financial doubt, its tall frame casting a long, lonely shadow across the field. Tesla visited the site often, walking slowly along the tower's foundation, brushing his fingertips against the wooden beams, listening to the wind swirl around its structure. He believed the project could still succeed. He saw it working in his mind, felt it working. Yet night after night, the tower remained silent, a sleeping instrument that had never been allowed to sing. Still, Tesla remained gentle in his determination, telling himself that some ideas simply come before their time, like seeds scattered on frozen soil, waiting for a warmer century to bloom. As the years passed, Wardenclyffe was never completed. The tower was eventually dismantled, its metal sold to pay Tesla's debts. The dream collapsed, but the vision did not die. Even in his quietest moments, Tesla whispered to himself that the world was not yet ready for such abundance, but would be one day. And as he stood alone on the empty field where his tower once reached toward the sky, he felt neither failure nor regret, only the soft ache of a future glimpsed but not yet born. For Tesla believed that ideas like waves never vanish. They travel, they reflect, they echo across time, and sooner or later, someone, somewhere, hears them again. As Wardenclyffe faded into silence, Tesla turned inward deeper than ever before. His laboratory, once alive with crackling arcs and towers of copper, became a sanctuary of quiet experiments. He no longer sought to impress investors or dazzle the public. Instead, he returned to the mysteries that had shaped him since childhood: the nature of vibration, the hidden language of frequency, the strange relationship between matter and energy. He believed that the universe was not built from solid objects, but from patterns, subtle pulsations that formed the foundation of everything that exists. And Tesla, alone in the dim glow of his lamps, set out to understand these rhythms the way a musician studies the notes of a cosmic symphony. In those years, Tesla began exploring extremely high-frequency currents, so delicate, so rapid, that ordinary instruments could barely detect them. He believed that these frequencies revealed something fundamental about existence. "If you want to understand the secrets of the universe," he once whispered, "think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." To him, this was not poetic metaphor, it was literal truth. When he activated his oscillators, the machines hummed with soft, rhythmic pulses that reminded him of a heartbeat, not a human one, but the heartbeat of the world itself. He would sit beside them for hours, eyes half closed, listening as though the machines were whispering ancient secrets through their trembling frames. Tesla also developed an unusual ability during these years, one that felt more mystical than scientific. When he tuned his machines to certain frequencies, he claimed he could sense emotions sharpen, memories stir, and thoughts deepen into extraordinary clarity. Sometimes he felt a kind of tranquility wash over him, a stillness that seemed to stretch the boundaries of time. Other times, flashes of imagery would appear in his mind, spirals of color, geometric lattices, structures of light unfolding like flowers. Were these visions the product of fatigue, of genius, of resonance interacting with consciousness? Tesla never answered aloud. He simply observed, recording sensations the way one records the weather calmly, quietly, without judgment. In the quiet of his laboratory, he also began experimenting with mechanical resonance, tiny oscillators that could shake entire buildings when tuned to the right frequency. Tesla realized that everything in existence has a vibrational fingerprint, a frequency at which it can be influenced. He believed that emotions, illnesses, storms, even human thoughts might follow similar laws. To him, the universe was not chaotic, but exquisitely ordered, bound together by invisible threads of resonance. And if one understood those threads, if one could pluck them gently, like strings on a cosmic instrument, then nature itself could respond. But while these discoveries filled Tesla with wonder, they also deepened his solitude. Few people could follow the path his mind walked. Fewer still believed his claims about energy, consciousness, and frequency. Some considered him eccentric, others thought him otherworldly. Yet Tesla never argued, never defended, never tried to force the world to understand. He simply continued his work, trusting that truth reveals itself slowly, like stars emerging one by one after sunset. To him, the pursuit of knowledge was not a competition, but a meditation, a way to listen to the universe's quiet voice. As his experiments grew more subtle, Tesla felt increasingly connected to something vast and unspoken. He sensed patterns in storms, rhythms in starlight, harmonies in the movements of machines. Sometimes he would walk late at night, letting the city fall away into silence, and imagine that the entire world was wrapped in a vibrating field, a gentle hum that held galaxies together and guided the spin of electrons. He believed this field could be understood. He believed it could be used for healing, for communication, for connection. And though he lacked the resources to pursue these dreams fully, the visions remained with him, glowing softly in the back of his mind, like distant constellations waiting to be mapped. In these quiet years, Tesla was no longer building towers or winning public battles. Instead, he was exploring the invisible architecture beneath reality itself, searching for the delicate currents that guide life, thought, and matter. And though the world paid little attention, Tesla knew these discoveries were not lost. He believed that every idea has a resonance, and that once released into the universe, it continues to vibrate. Like a note struck on a tuning fork, it lingers, waiting for another mind, another century, another dreamer to hear it. As the years continued to unfold, Tesla's life took on a rhythm of profound solitude. The world around him accelerated, cities grew louder, industries expanded, inventions multiplied. But Tesla moved in the opposite direction, retreating into the subtle quiet where his thoughts could breathe. He lived in hotel rooms, furnished simply, carefully arranged, so nothing disturbed the delicate order he required for thinking. His notebooks filled slowly, not with frantic sketches, but with calm, deliberate reflections, equations written like meditations, observations preserved with the softness of a whisper. He spoke to few people. He entertained even fewer. Yet his inner world remained vivid, illuminated by the glow of ideas that still burned bright within him. In these quiet years, Tesla's sense of the universe deepened. He began to believe that consciousness itself was part of a larger field, a continuum of energy that flowed through all living things. Nights often found him sitting by a window, watching the distant flicker of lightning or the soft, rhythmic sweep of passing clouds. To most, these were ordinary scenes. To Tesla, they were clues, gentle reminders of the hidden order woven into every movement of the sky. He believed the universe communicated through patterns, subtle, silent signals that could be felt more easily than they could be heard. And in his solitude, he felt those patterns more clearly than ever before. He developed unusual habits during this time, rituals that helped him quiet the turbulence of his mind. He walked the same paths each day, counting his steps with precision. He handled objects 3 times before setting them down. He avoided pearls, disliked round shapes, and sought symmetry in everything around him. People called these behaviors eccentric, but to Tesla, They were handles ways to steady the immense and often overwhelming flow of imagination within him. They allowed him to move gently through the world, like a man balancing on invisible currents only he could sense. Loneliness was both companion and teacher to him. He felt misunderstood, yet he never expressed bitterness. Instead, he observed humanity with tenderness, believing that most people lived with their senses dimmed, unaware of the beauty and complexity woven into existence. Tesla saw that beauty everywhere, in the hum of a street lamp, in the geometry of a bird's flight, in the faint shimmer of starlight reflected on a winter sidewalk. His mind did not divide science from wonder. To him, they were the same thing, two expressions of the same universal rhythm. But solitude also brought sorrow. Many of Tesla's inventions remained unfinished, not because he lacked knowledge, but because he lacked resources. Investors had turned toward more practical technologies, leaving Tesla to pursue his dreams alone. He knew his ideas were ahead of their time, so far ahead, in fact, that they belonged more to future centuries than to his own. And though this realization brought a quiet sense of acceptance, it also carried a gentle ache. He could see a future the world was not ready to enter. He could hear a frequency others could not yet detect. Yet, in spite of it all, Tesla's spirit remained unbroken. His belief in the universe's hidden harmony never faded. He trusted that ideas, once born, lived on beyond their creator, rippling outward through time like waves spreading across a still lake. And as he walked the halls of his hotel at night, listening to the faint hum of distant electrical lines, he felt a warm certainty that his work was not lost. It was simply waiting for another era, another mind, another moment when the world would be ready to hear the quiet truths he had spent a lifetime discovering. In these twilight years, Tesla was no longer the man commanding lightning in towering laboratories. He was something gentler, an observer, a listener, a guardian of ideas still unfolding. And though he moved through the world softly, like a fading echo of a brilliant storm, the resonance of his life continued to hum beneath the surface of history, waiting to awaken. In the quiet years of his life, when public attention had drifted elsewhere and the laboratories no longer glowed with the thunder of his great coils, Tesla began to observe nature with a gentleness that bordered on reverence. He believed that every phenomenon, every flutter of a leaf, every trembling shadow, every faint ripple on a pond contained a message, a small echo of a universal law waiting to be understood. He spoke often of the idea that nature was not chaotic but exquisitely structured, and that the key to unlocking its secrets was not force, but listening. And Tesla, more than most, knew how to listen. His mind moved slowly across patterns, tracing the invisible curves of cause and effect until he uncovered the quiet harmony beneath them. He watched birds glide through the air with no wasted motion. Their wings did not fight the wind, they collaborated with it, folding gracefully into currents that supported their weight. Tesla believed that machines should obey the same principles, working with natural forces rather than resisting them. In the flow of a river, he saw the blueprint for turbines. In the rotation of planets, he saw the foundation for resonant frequencies. In the branching of trees, he saw pathways for electrical distribution. Nature, to Tesla, was a library of perfect designs, each page written in a language of patterns and vibrations. Tesla often fed pigeons in the park, moving with slow, deliberate steps, as though he were entering a sacred space. He believed animals felt frequencies humans no longer sensed, subtle changes in the electromagnetic field, soft pulses of energy beneath the earth. With pigeons, he found a kind of companionship that transcended words. He watched their wings shimmer in the sun, the precise curvature of each feather capturing light in a way that reminded him of resonant waves. He noticed how they tilted their heads, pausing as though perceiving signals humans overlooked. Tesla often said that animals live closer to the truth because they are not distracted by doubts, noise, or fear. In these small, quiet moments, the world softened for him. The frantic pace of progress receded, replaced by a sense of connection, subtle, steady, and infinitely gentle. Tesla believed that all life, from the smallest insect to the largest galaxy, vibrated to the same underlying rhythm. And he felt that when the human mind became calm enough, still enough, it could sense this rhythm, like hearing the bass note beneath a complex melody. Many evenings, he sat alone by his window, letting the dim light settle across his face as he breathed in a slow and steady pattern. In these meditative silences, he felt himself align with something vast and ancient, the same pulse he had sensed as a child watching storms on the horizon. It was during one of these contemplative nights that Tesla wrote in his journal, "My brain is only a receiver. There is a core in the universe from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." He did not mean this metaphorically. He believed that human consciousness was a kind of antenna, capable of tuning into frequencies that revealed new ideas. To him, inspiration was not born inside a person but received a transmission from a deeper field of intelligence woven into the fabric of existence. When Tesla spoke of this idea, people often misunderstood, assuming mysticism where he saw physics. But Tesla was comfortable with the misunderstanding. He knew that the boundaries between science and mystery were far thinner than most believed. As he aged, his body weakened, but his sense of connection with the natural world grew stronger. He spoke of energy fields with the softness of someone describing a childhood memory. He spoke of vibrations with the certainty of someone describing a familiar path. And he spoke of the universe as though it were a lifelong companion, gentle, constant, patient. In these final years, Tesla's discoveries shifted from the physical to the philosophical. He no longer sought to harness lightning. Instead, he sought to understand the quiet light that lives within all things, the subtle glow that binds existence together in a single, resonant field. And in this deepened understanding, Tesla found a kind of peace. He had once tried to give the world electricity. Now he simply wished to reveal its soul. As Tesla grew older, his thoughts drifted more often toward the future, a place he felt strangely familiar with, as though he had walked its corridors long before humanity arrived there. In quiet hotel rooms where the lights were dim and the world outside softened into silence, he filled his notebooks with ideas that would not be realized for decades, sometimes centuries. He wrote of portable communication devices powered wirelessly, capable of sending voice, images, and information across the globe. He described machines guided by remote control, capable of movement without human touch. He foresaw global networks of energy, information, and transportation systems that would bind nations not through borders, but through shared resonance. These visions came to him not as guesswork, but as clarity, unfolding gently in his mind like constellations revealing their patterns. Tesla, believed deeply that the future would be shaped by invisible forces, electricity, magnetism, radio waves, fields that humanity was only beginning to understand. He saw the universe not as a collection of solid objects, but as a sea of oscillations, each one capable of transmitting meaning if tuned properly. When he imagined the future, he imagined a world woven together by frequencies, where distance dissolved and information traveled at the speed of thought. He believed that one day humanity would speak to machines, command them with voice alone, and receive answers shaped by complex algorithms. In many ways, Tesla sensed the dawn of the digital age long before its first breath. But he also foresaw dangers. He warned that unchecked technological growth without wisdom or compassion could fracture the world rather than unite it. He spoke of machines capable of destruction greater than any known weapon devices, so powerful that they could bring nations to their knees with a single pulse. This fear drove him to seek technologies of peace, devices that could detect vibrations in the earth, machines that could sense incoming storms, systems that could transmit messages without wires or conflict. Tesla believed that the more humanity understood the invisible forces governing nature, the less inclined it would be to wage war or cause harm. In the quiet solitude of his later years, Tesla composed long reflections on how the future might treat his ideas. He suspected that many of his discoveries would remain hidden, misunderstood, or dismissed until the world matured enough to appreciate them. He was not resentful. He understood that time itself is a kind of resonance. Ideas arrive when the world is ready to hear them, not sooner, not later. He often imagined future scientists working in advanced laboratories, rediscovering principles he once explored with simple coils and oscillators. And when they did, he imagined them feeling a faint echo of his presence, an invisible thread connecting their experiments to the quiet figure who first glimpsed those possibilities. Even as his physical strength diminished, his visions remained vividly alive. Some nights he could not sleep because images of future cities shimmered behind his eyelids, streets illuminated by clean, endless energy, towers transmitting information through the air, machines gliding silently along magnetic paths, households powered without wires, voices carried instantly across oceans. These visions comforted him. They assured him that the work he had devoted his life to was not lost but simply awaiting its moment in history. And yet, Tesla never claimed ownership over these ideas. He believed they came from a greater source, a universal field of intelligence, accessible to any mind quiet enough to receive it. He once wrote, "The gift of mental power comes from the Godhead, and if we concentrate our minds on that truth, we become in tune with this great power." He saw himself not as a creator, but as a conductor, someone who allowed ideas to pass through him the way electricity passes through a wire. In his final years, Tesla walked slowly through the streets of Manhattan, moving like a gentle echo of the brilliant storm he had once been. People did not always recognize him. The world had grown louder, brighter, faster, but Tesla remained steady, listening for the subtle signals of a future only he could hear. And quietly, beneath the noise of a changing century, his visions continued to vibrate resonances, waiting for the right moment to awaken. As the world stepped deeper into the modern age, Tesla's presence grew softer, like the fading glow of a distant star that still warms the sky long after its brightest moment has passed. He moved from one hotel to another, always carrying a few carefully folded suits, a notebook, and the quiet dignity of a man who had lived more in thought than in material comfort. The bustling streets of New York no longer saw him as the pioneer of electrical power or the conqueror of lightning. They saw an elderly gentleman walking with slow, deliberate steps, feeding pigeons in the park, and returning each night to a small room filled with memories of ideas too large for the world he lived in. Yet within Tesla's mind, the light had not dimmed. His thoughts continued to move with the same quiet brilliance, unfolding gently like waves illuminated from beneath. He spent hours sitting near his window, watching how dusk settled across the rooftops, how the electric lights flickered to life one by one. Each lamp that glowed against the dark reminded him of the first time he had proved to the world that alternating current could illuminate entire cities. He didn't feel pride, just a soft sense of gratitude that he had helped shape a world more luminous than the one he was born into. Tesla developed a deep companionship with pigeons during these years, caring for them with a tenderness that surprised those who knew him only as a scientist. There was one pigeon in particular, white, with faint grey markings, that he spoke of with profound emotion. She visited him daily, perching on his windowsill or resting gently in his hands as he whispered to her softly. Tesla believed she understood him, not through words but through vibration, through a quiet frequency shared between living beings. He once said she brought him a sense of peace no human ever had, as if her presence tuned his mind to a calmer, more harmonious state. In her soft coos and delicate movements, he found comfort during the silent nights when loneliness pressed around him. Despite his dwindling finances and declining health, Tesla continued to pursue new ideas. His notebook from this period contains sketches of flying machines that resemble early concepts of vertical lift aircraft, devices for harnessing cosmic rays, methods for wireless transmission of information, and even reflections on the nature of gravity. He believed that gravitation might be tied to the movement of energy through space, a notion far ahead of its time. These ideas were rough and incomplete, the traces of a mind still reaching toward the unknown even as the body that carried it grew frail. But Tesla never stopped wondering, never stopped listening, never stopped trying to decode the quiet patterns hidden within the universe. Many evenings, he sat alone in the lobby of the hotel where he lived, dressed impeccably in a dark suit, his posture straight despite his age. People passed by without realizing they were walking past one of the greatest thinkers the world had ever known. Tesla did not mind. He had long ago accepted that recognition was ephemeral, while ideas, true ideas, lived on. In these quiet hours, he often closed his eyes and allowed his mind to drift back through the decades. The blue fire of the coils in his laboratory, the shimmering lights of the Chicago World's Fair, the silent hum beneath Wardenclyffe Tower, the rotating field that first appeared to him like a gift from the sky. In the winter of 1943, Tesla passed away alone in his room, the soft hum of the city beyond his window echoing faintly through the walls. But even in his final moments, it is said he appeared peaceful, as though he were simply listening to the distant heartbeat of the universe he had spent a lifetime trying to understand. And though his body was gone, the resonance of his ideas remained vibrations that continued to ripple outward into the world, shaping technologies, inspiring generations, and illuminating the path toward futures he had envisioned long before anyone else dared to imagine them. In death, as in life, Tesla existed in a place between the visible and the invisible, between the world as it is and the world as it could be. After Tesla's passing, the world did not change overnight. Streets remained busy, buildings remained loud, and humanity continued forward, unaware that one of its greatest minds had slipped quietly into the folds of time. Yet something subtle began to happen in the years that followed, a gentle awakening, as if the world, piece by piece, started tuning itself to the frequencies Tesla had sensed long before anyone else. At first, it was in the laboratories of young engineers who stumbled upon an idea that felt strangely familiar. Then, in the distant hum of radio towers rising across cities. Then, in the soft glow of wireless signals drifting through the air. Slowly, quietly, the future Tesla had imagined began to take form. Many of Tesla's discoveries, once dismissed as fantasies, became the foundation of modern technology. Radio, remote control, wireless communication, alternating current, fluorescent lighting, X-rays, innovations that now pulse through everyday life like invisible currents. As each new invention emerged, scientists traced its lineage back to Tesla's experiments, and suddenly the quiet figure who once wandered the streets of Manhattan seemed less like an eccentric dreamer and more like a traveler who had simply arrived too early. His notebooks, once ignored, became treasure maps. His theories, once ridiculed, became guiding stars. And his name, once whispered only in the corners of scientific circles, began to shine again. Yet there was something deeper in Tesla's legacy, something beyond the machines, beyond the patents, beyond the invention of an electrified world. Tesla had offered humanity a new way of seeing the universe, as a living, vibrating continuum of energy. A place where everything is connected: sound, light, matter, thought, woven together by frequencies that ripple through space like waves on a boundless sea. This vision, poetic and scientific at once, seeded the ground for fields that would blossom long after his lifetime. Quantum physics, electromagnetism, resonance theory, information technology. Every time humanity looked deeper into the invisible architecture of the cosmos, it moved closer to the world Tesla had tried to reveal. Artists, philosophers, and dreamers also found in Tesla a symbol of something profoundly human, the endless pursuit of understanding. To them, Tesla embodied the gentle loneliness of genius, the bravery to imagine what does not yet exist, and the quiet resilience to follow truth even when the world turns away. His life became a reminder that vision often arrives before acceptance, that the greatest minds speak languages their own centuries cannot yet comprehend. And so Tesla's story traveled not just through textbooks, but through novels, films, music, and art, each one carrying a small spark of the man who once held lightning in his hands. As decades passed, the world Tesla predicted began to emerge with increasing clarity. Wireless power research returned. Renewable energy systems took shape. Communication flowed through invisible channels. Machines responded to human voice. Autonomous technology expanded into land, sea, and sky. Though the world had advanced on its own path, each milestone felt like an echo, soft, distant, yet unmistakably resonant, of a mind that had wandered these possibilities long before. Many believe Tesla saw the 21st century with perfect clarity. Others believed he saw even farther. Standing today in a world illuminated by currents he helped define, surrounded by devices that move through the air with signals he once imagined, Tesla's presence feels less like history and more like inspiration, a quiet hum beneath the surface of modern life. His ideas are no longer alone. They vibrate through the power grids that brighten our nights, through the wireless waves that carry our voices, and through the dreamers who still look at storms and see not danger, but possibility. In this afterglow, Tesla's legacy becomes more than the story of a brilliant inventor. It becomes a reminder that every idea, no matter how early or misunderstood, carries a resonance that lives far beyond its creator. Like a soft frequency drifting through the universe, waiting for the right moment to be heard. After Tesla's passing, the quiet solitude of his final hotel room became the center of sudden activity. Government officials, scientists, curious journalists, and federal agents moved through the dimly lit space, gathering his belongings with an urgency that contradicted the peaceful stillness Tesla had maintained in life. Drawers were opened, papers were collected, boxes were sealed. Among them were notebooks, many of them filled with cryptic diagrams, sketches, formulas, and reflections that seemed to belong not to the 20th century, but to some distant era yet to come. These notebooks would later become one of the most tantalizing mysteries surrounding Tesla's legacy, whispered about by historians, engineers, and dreamers alike. Some of the papers described devices that had never been built, oscillators tuned to frequencies no equipment of his time could measure, engines that resonated with the Earth itself, communication systems that used the ionosphere like a living instrument. Other notebooks contained strange symbols, geometric shapes, and numerical patterns that researchers still struggle to interpret. Tesla often worked at the edge of science, walking the line between known physics and intuitive insight. His notes reflected this delicate balance. Some pages were precise engineering drafts, while others resembled the meditative musings of a philosopher exploring the hidden harmony of the universe. Yet, it was the missing papers, the ones never found, that sparked the greatest curiosity. Tesla hinted throughout his life at discoveries he had made but never revealed publicly. He spoke of a machine capable of generating limitless clean energy by tapping into the natural vibrations of space. He suggested that gravity itself might be a form of electromagnetic interaction. He claimed he had devised a method for transmitting power instantaneously across any distance. Whether these ideas were complete, fragmented, or simply too ahead of their time is unknown. But the absence of certain notebooks gave rise to countless theories, each one imagining a different version of the truth Tesla carried with him. Some believed his most profound ideas were purposefully hidden to protect the world from misusing them. Tesla understood better than anyone the dual nature of technological power. A discovery intended for peace could easily become a weapon in the wrong hands. He once remarked that humanity was not yet spiritually mature enough to handle certain forms of energy. It is possible that Tesla chose secrecy over recognition, burying his most extraordinary insights within layers of symbolism, or perhaps never writing them down at all. In this sense, the missing notebooks became less a mystery and more a philosophical question. What knowledge does the world need, and what knowledge must it earn? Others imagined a simpler truth, that Tesla's genius was so expansive, so fluid, that not everything he discovered could be contained in physical form. Much of his work existed within his mind, in a silent architecture of imagination, where equations were shaped like melodies and inventions left trails of light behind them. His thoughts were often years ahead of his time, and written words may never have fully captured the depth of his understanding. The missing papers, then, might simply represent the natural boundary between what can be shared and what can only be felt. Ideas too grand for a page, insights too subtle for ink. And so the legend of Tesla's lost notebooks grew, becoming a symbol of the unknown potential still waiting between the lines of his life. Whether they remain locked in some forgotten archive, or whether they never existed at all, they remind us of the delicate balance between discovery and mystery. Tesla's brilliance did not lie solely in the inventions he built, but in the questions he left behind, questions that continue to vibrate through time, like faint signals from a distant transmitter. And in those unanswered echoes, the world senses the presence of a mind that saw far beyond its century, and perhaps far beyond ours. In the quieter chapters of Tesla's life, long after the public spotlight had faded, he began exploring an aspect of science that few understood, and even fewer dared to examine: the influence of light, sound, and vibration on the human mind. To Tesla, light was not merely illumination, and sound was not merely air in motion. Both were gateways, subtle frequencies capable of shifting human perception, altering consciousness, and opening inner landscapes normally hidden from awareness. In the stillness of his laboratory at night, when the city hummed softly behind the walls, Tesla observed how different frequencies shaped human emotion and mental clarity. He believed that beneath thought itself, the mind resonated like an instrument, responding to invisible forces with remarkable sensitivity. Tesla's experiments grew more unusual as he realized how deeply the mind responds to vibration. High-frequency currents, low-amplitude oscillations, and faint electromagnetic pulses created subtle shifts in the nervous system. Test subjects experienced relaxation, heightened clarity, or a softening of inner tension, as if their thoughts were being gently reorganized. Tesla saw this not as magic, but as resonance. The mind, he believed, was a living receiver that could be tuned, just like a coil or circuit. If a frequency matched the natural rhythm of the brain, consciousness could slip into deeper calm, sharper insight, or even altered states of awareness. Today, neuroscience quietly echoes these ideas, but Tesla sensed them long before the science existed to explain them. It was during these solitary nights that Tesla discovered something remarkable. Rhythmic pulses of light combined with low-frequency vibration could bring the human system into profound stillness. Breathing slowed, heart rhythms synchronized, thoughts drifted into a gentle flow, no longer sharp or fragmented. Tesla understood instantly what this meant. If every physical structure had a natural frequency, bridges, buildings, tuning forks, coils, perhaps the mind did too. And if that frequency could be found, perhaps human consciousness could be guided toward greater balance. This insight would lay the philosophical groundwork for what modern researchers now call brainwave entrainment. To Tesla, it was simply evidence that the human mind was part of a larger, universal field of resonance. light fascinated him just as deeply. Tesla observed that ultraviolet light awakened the body, that red wavelengths warmed and stimulated, that yellow tones sharpened awareness, and that soft blues soothed mental tension like a cool hand on the forehead. In his darkened lab, he used light not to see, but to feel, to explore how its frequencies interacted with the subtle layers of human perception. To Tesla, light was the purest form of energy, both physical and spiritual. "The universe began with light," he once wrote, "and perhaps the deepest doors of the mind will open by light as well." This belief guided many of his late-night reflections, blurring the boundary between physics and the inner world. His experiments with sound and mechanical vibration were equally groundbreaking. With a small oscillator, Tesla famously caused a building to tremble not out of recklessness, but to demonstrate the raw power of resonance. Yet what truly captured his imagination was not destruction, but harmony. Everything, he said, has a frequency, a building, a bridge, a crystal, even a single thought. If the right frequency is applied, healing and coherence become possible. Tesla envisioned a future where sound could restore the body's natural rhythms, where vibration could calm the nervous system, and where resonance could reconnect the human mind to the deeper harmonies of nature. These ideas, radical in his time, quietly foreshadow today's fields of vibrational medicine, cymatics, and acoustic therapy. Most of these experiments never entered the public eye. The notes were scattered, the diagrams incomplete, the formulas scribbled in margins. But each fragment revealed the same truth. Tesla was designing technology not just for machines, but for the human soul. He believed the ultimate purpose of science was not to dominate nature, but to understand the delicate, energetic threads that bind us to it. In the silent hours of his laboratory, Tesla felt he was not alone. Light spoke, sound whispered, vibration answered, and perhaps, in those gentle dialogues, the universe truly did speak back. Among Tesla's most unconventional beliefs was the idea that Earth itself functioned as a vast energetic organism, a planet-sized resonator humming at its own natural frequency. To most people of his time, Earth was simply a physical sphere of rock, water, and atmosphere. But to Tesla, it was alive with motion, charged with invisible currents, and constantly singing in vibrations too subtle for human senses. He envisioned the planet not as an inert body, but as a colossal instrument whose harmonics shaped weather patterns, magnetic fields, and perhaps even human consciousness. This worldview placed Tesla somewhere between scientist and mystic, though he saw no contradiction between the two. Tesla's most intense explorations of this idea took place in Colorado Springs, where he built his laboratory in the midst of powerful storms. He believed lightning was not chaos, but communication. The earth exhaling electrical breath. When his massive coils unleashed 100-foot arcs into the sky, Tesla felt as if he were tuning into the planet's heartbeat. At night, he listened to the faint pulses traveling through the ground, long, slow vibrations that seemed to wrap around the globe before returning to his instruments. He became convinced that Earth had a natural resonant frequency, and that, with the right equipment, energy could be transmitted across continents by harmonizing with this planetary rhythm. From these insights emerged one of Tesla's boldest dreams: wireless global energy. He believed that a sufficiently large tower like Wardenclyffe could inject energy into Earth's resonant cavity and allow anyone, anywhere, to draw power directly from the planet itself. No wires, no fuel, only resonance. To many, this sounded fantastical, but Tesla saw the underlying physics as elegant and inevitable. Modern science would later confirm aspects of this vision through concepts like the Schumann resonance, Earth ionosphere waveguides, and global electromagnetic cavities, ideas Tesla intuited decades before they became formal scientific knowledge. Tesla also believed that Earth's resonance affected not just machines, but people. He sensed that the human brain's rhythms, its natural oscillations, were somehow aligned with the planet's electrical environment. When the Earth's frequency shifted, he suspected human emotion and cognition shifted with it. Today, research into geomagnetic activity and brainwave synchronization touches on these same possibilities, offering a faint echo of Tesla's intuition. For him, the boundary between the mind and the planet was not a wall, but a membrane, thin, permeable, vibrating. Underlying all of Tesla's planetary theories was a gentle philosophy. Technology should not oppose nature, but harmonize with it. Machines should follow the logic of the Earth, not attempt to overpower it. Energy systems should be designed like rivers, not reactors flowing, adaptive, resonant. Tesla believed that humanity's greatest mistake was forcing the world to operate through mechanical strain instead of natural rhythm. If we learn to listen to the Earth's subtle signals, he thought, we would discover a cleaner and more harmonious path forward. His ideas were dismissed by many, archived by some, and admired by a quiet few. But as modern science gradually unveils the complexity of Earth's electrical and magnetic dynamics, Tesla's words feel less like eccentric speculation and more like early glimpses of a truth we are only beginning to understand. He sensed, long before instruments could measure it, that our planet is not silent. It vibrates, it breathes, it resonates. And in those resonances, Tesla believed, lies the key to both the future of energy and the evolution of human consciousness. In the quiet twilight of his life, Tesla's attention drifted away from machines and towards something far more elusive, the nature of consciousness itself. He no longer saw the human mind merely as a biological organ, but as a delicate receiver tuned to the deeper vibrations of the universe. To him, thought was not confined to the brain, thought was a frequency. Inspiration was a transmission, and the mind, when calm enough, could access a reservoir of intelligence far beyond personal experience. Tesla believed consciousness was woven into the very fabric of reality, an energetic field that every living being touched, whether knowingly or not. Tesla often described moments of profound clarity when ideas appeared fully formed in his mind, not gradually, not through trial and error, but all at once, as if arriving from a higher dimension. These episodes convinced him that the human brain functioned like an antenna, capable of aligning with sources of knowledge beyond ordinary perception. In the stillness of his hotel room, he practiced entering a mental state of deep silence, letting thoughts drift until a subtle resonance emerged, an inner frequency he believed connected him to a universal intelligence. Today, some would call this intuition, flow state, or even quantum cognition. To Tesla, it was simply listening. He believed consciousness was not limited to humans. Every structure in nature, from the branching of a tree to the movement of a river, revealed traces of intention, a silent intelligence expressing itself through form. Crystals, he said, were living entities, their growth patterns shaped by an inner directive. Lightning followed pathways determined not only by physics, but by a kind of elemental logic. Even the Earth's magnetic field seemed to Tesla like a vast nervous system. To him, the universe was not a random mechanical construct, but a symphony of purposeful frequencies, each contributing to a larger coherence. Tesla's meditative practices grew more refined as he aged. He spent long periods visualizing complex machines entirely in his mind, running them, testing them, modifying them without lifting a single tool. He claimed he could feel mechanical stresses, hear resonances, and detect flaws purely through imagination. To Tesla, the boundary between the physical and the mental was thin, almost dissolving. If a machine worked perfectly in the laboratory of the mind, he said, it would work in reality. This mental design process was not just efficiency, it was a glimpse into how consciousness might shape matter. With time, Tesla became convinced that human perception was only a narrow slice of a much broader spectrum of reality. Just as the eye can see only a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, he believed the mind perceives only a fraction of the frequencies that shape existence. Beyond those limits, Tesla imagined a realm of ideas, energies, and phenomena waiting to be discovered. He hinted that the next great leap in science would not come from new machines, but from a deeper understanding of the mind itself, its power to receive, to resonate, to transform. Tesla's thoughts on consciousness were far ahead of his time, bordering on what many dismissed as mysticism. Yet, modern research in quantum biology, neurophysics, and information theory quietly circles the same questions he once pondered alone in dimly lit rooms. What is thought? Where does inspiration come from? How does the universe organize itself into patterns of intelligence? Tesla offered no final answers. Instead, he left a trail of luminous insights, like soft lights glowing along a path humanity has only just begun to walk. For Tesla, the greatest mystery was not electricity, nor wireless power, nor even the nature of the cosmos. It was the mind, the silent, resonant field in which reality itself might be shaped. There is a quiet sadness that often accompanies extraordinary minds, a kind of soft ache that grows in the spaces where genius meets a world unprepared to understand it. Tesla lived much of his life within this delicate tension. To the outside world, he was brilliant, eccentric, otherworldly. But inside, he carried a mind that never truly rested, a mind overflowing with ideas that arrived faster than he could express them, more intricate than the world could support. He once admitted that his thoughts came in floods, impossible to stop, impossible to silence. This constant inner illumination was both a blessing and a burden, a source of creation and a source of profound solitude. Tesla found refuge in isolation, not because he rejected people, but because the noise of ordinary life threatened to overwhelm the subtle frequencies he relied on to think. He preferred the company of quiet corners, dim hotel rooms, gentle evenings in empty parks. Crowds distracted him, conversations drained him. Small talk felt like static, interfering with a far more important broadcast. In silence, he could listen to the hum of electricity, to the whisper of intuition, to the delicate resonance of ideas forming in the back of his mind. Silence sharpened him. Silence protected him. Yet silence also deepened the distance between Tesla and the world that admired him from afar. This solitude gradually blossomed into a gentle melancholy, a sadness not of despair, but of understanding. Tesla knew humanity had extraordinary potential, yet he also knew it was not ready to grasp many of the things he imagined. His greatest inventions often waited years to be recognized, and many were never realized at all. Like a composer who hears an entire symphony in his mind, yet lacks the orchestra to perform it, Tesla carried visions too vast for his time. This mismatch between inner brilliance and outer reality created a quiet ache, a longing for a world that did not yet exist. He often reflected on how little of his imagination could ever be brought into physical form. Wardenclyffe Tower, his dreams of global wireless energy, his attempts to tap the natural frequencies of the Earth, these were only fragments of what he envisioned. Entire fields of possibility existed in his mind. Transportation systems powered by resonance, healing technologies based on vibration, communication systems that transcended distance, even ideas about gravity and cosmic energy that remain mysteries today. Tesla once hinted that his greatest discoveries were those he never built, those that lived only in the silent architecture of his thoughts. Yet despite the loneliness of his genius, Tesla carried a remarkable peace within him. He accepted his path with quiet dignity, understanding that recognition was not the true measure of impact. Time was the real judge. He believed that ideas, once conceived, develop a life of their own, that they drift through the world like invisible seeds, taking root when conditions finally allow. And so Tesla did not despair when his work was overlooked. He trusted the future. He trusted the slow unfolding of human consciousness. He trusted that one day the world would rise to meet the visions he had glimpsed. In the end, Tesla's melancholy was not a shadow but a shimmer, the soft glow of a soul who felt too deeply, saw too clearly, and dreamed too far ahead. His loneliness was the quiet price he paid for perceiving the universe not as it was, but as it could be. In Tesla's later years, one of his most profound realizations was that humanity was not simply a collection of isolated individuals, but a vast, interconnected web of energy. Each person, he believed, radiated a unique frequency, a subtle vibrational signature shaped by thought, emotion, and intention. To Tesla, these frequencies were not metaphors, but literal fields, interacting and overlapping in ways that influenced collective behavior. Just as tuning forks resonate when brought near one another, Tesla believed human beings unconsciously resonated with the emotional and mental states of those around them. Humanity, in his eyes, was not separate but synchronized. He often observed how emotions spread through groups like a wave of invisible electricity. A crowd filled with fear seemed to vibrate at a high, chaotic frequency. A gathering united by joy or inspiration produced a calmer, more coherent resonance. Tesla believed this phenomenon explained why groups could behave irrationally or harmoniously, depending on their shared vibrational state. It was not magic, only physics. Thoughts, he said, were energetic impulses. Emotions were modulations of these impulses. A single person's inner vibration could influence dozens of others, and those dozens could influence thousands more. In this way, Tesla imagined humanity as a living field of consciousness, constantly sending and receiving signals. He saw examples everywhere: the synchronized excitement of a concert audience, the collective hush of a theater before a performance, the way hope, fear, or anger could spread through entire cities. Tesla understood these moments as manifestations of harmonic resonance, not psychological coincidence, but energetic coherence. Modern science would one day study mirror neurons, emotional contagion, and the electromagnetic patterns of the heart. But Tesla perceived these phenomena long before the language existed to describe them. To him, even silent rooms carried emotional imprints, faint echoes of the people who had occupied them. Tesla believed that if humans learned to control their own frequency through intention, clarity, and emotional regulation, they could uplift not only themselves but those around them. He imagined a world where individuals tuned themselves like instruments, aligning their inner resonance with harmony rather than discord. Such a world, he thought, would be capable of extraordinary creativity and peace. He even suggested that telepathy, long relegated to mythology, might simply be the natural extension of this vibrational communication. If two minds reached similar frequencies, he believed, thought could travel between them as effortlessly as radio waves between antennas. At the heart of this vision was Tesla's conviction that kindness, compassion, and calm were not just moral virtues but energetic forces. A peaceful mind radiated stability, a loving heart emitted coherence, a clear intention could shift the vibrational atmosphere of an entire room. Tesla saw human behavior not just through psychology, but through physics, through the laws of resonance and the mathematics of frequency. He believed that one serene individual could neutralize the chaos of many, just as one precisely tuned oscillator could stabilize a complex system. To Tesla, humanity's future depended not only on technological progress, but on energetic maturity, the ability to recognize ourselves as part of a shared field of consciousness. He believed that when humans finally understood their own vibrational nature, conflict would diminish, creativity would accelerate, and society would function more like a symphony than a struggle. This idea was grand, poetic, and far ahead of its time, yet Tesla held it with quiet certainty, because deep in his solitude, he felt it. Humans were not alone inside their minds. Every thought rippled outward. Every emotion resonated. Every consciousness touched the whole. And Tesla, more clearly than anyone before him, sensed the hum of that great, invisible network. As Tesla grew older, his sensitivity to the unseen energies around him intensified. What others dismissed as imagination, Tesla experienced as a tangible sensation, a subtle pressure in the air, a faint trembling in the nerves, a quiet shift in the emotional climate of a room. He believed that the world was filled not only with electrical and magnetic fields, but with subtler forces that interacted with the human mind in ways science had not yet learned to measure. To Tesla, these invisible dynamics were as real as the voltage in a wire, and over time, he became their silent observer, listening to them with the same reverence a musician gives to the faintest note of a distant instrument. He often spoke of his ability to sense when someone entered a room before hearing or seeing them. The presence of another person altered the energetic atmosphere, producing what he described as a vibrational imprint. Some individuals felt light and harmonious, as if their presence carried a soft resonance. Others felt dense, chaotic, or draining. Tesla did not judge these sensations, he studied them. Over the years, he came to believe that each human being acted as an emitter of energy, broadcasting emotional and mental states into the ambient field. These frequencies mingled, clashed, or blended with those of others, shaping the invisible matrix of social interaction. Tesla's sensitivity extended even to objects and places. He claimed that certain rooms felt charged, as if holding the emotional residue of past events. Some environments sharpened his concentration, others clouded it. Old furniture, worn by human touch, seemed to hum with memories. Natural locations, mountain cliffs, forests, open plains, often elevated his state of mind, making his thoughts clearer and more luminous. He suspected that geography itself carried vibrational signatures shaped by the Earth's magnetic currents, the movement of water, and even the collective emotions of the people who lived there. Today, such ideas resemble fields like environmental psychology, geomagnetism, and subtle energy research, but in Tesla's time, they were considered esoteric. This heightened sensitivity was both a gift and a challenge. At times, the world felt overwhelmingly loud to him, not in sound but in energy. Crowded streets exhausted him. Chaotic emotional environments left him disoriented. But in solitude, Tesla felt restored. Quiet spaces allowed him to recalibrate his inner frequency, returning to a state of coherence that made his mind remarkably clear. It was in these moments that his most groundbreaking ideas emerged, concepts that seemed whispered by the universe itself, arriving fully formed as if transmitted through the very fabric of space. He believed deeply that creativity required attunement, and that this attunement depended on the subtle hygiene of one's energetic environment. Tesla's experiences led him to a profound conclusion. Human sensitivity was not a weakness, but an evolutionary advantage. Those who could feel the shifts in emotional and energetic patterns were better equipped to navigate life's complexities. They could predict conflict, sense dishonesty, perceive harmony, and understand others without needing words. Tesla believed that as humanity evolved, such sensitivity would become more common, allowing people to cooperate through intuitive understanding rather than struggle through misunderstanding. In this sense, he saw empathy not just as a moral trait, but as a scientific one, a capability rooted in the physics of resonance. Ultimately, Tesla viewed the unseen world as an extension of nature's larger design. Just as electricity had existed long before humanity discovered it, he believed subtle energies pervaded the world long before humans learned to sense them. To him, the universe was layered: physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and perhaps even spiritual. Most people perceived only the first layer, but Tesla moved fluidly between all of them, like a traveler who could see the hidden architecture beneath the visible structure. And in his quiet reflections, he often wondered whether future generations would learn to feel what he felt, to sense the world, not just with the eyes and ears, but with the entire field of consciousness. Tesla never claimed to possess supernatural abilities. He believed he was simply attuned to frequencies others had yet to recognize. And in that attunement, he discovered a truth that guided him for the rest of his life. The universe is not silent. It is always speaking, in light, in vibration, in emotion, and in the subtle energies that pass between every living being. In the final winter of Tesla's life, the world moved around him with little awareness of the monumental mind quietly drifting toward its final rest. Snow fell softly outside the windows of the New Yorker hotel, settling over the city like a blanket of white noise. Inside his small room, Tesla lived with the same simplicity he had embraced for years: a bed neatly made, a table cleared for thinking, a notebook open to half-finished ideas. His body had grown frail, but his mind remained luminous, still alive with the faint hum of unseen energies. Nights were spent in contemplation, listening not to the world outside, but to the deep silence within the silence where ideas are born, where understanding ripens, where the universe speaks in frequencies too delicate for ordinary ears. Tesla passed away alone, not in sadness, but in a state of profound stillness. The city continued humming, unaware that a star had quietly gone out. There were no thunderous storms, no brilliant flashes of light, only a calm transition, like the final tone of a resonant chord fading into the vastness of space. But in that quiet departure, something extraordinary happened. The world did not lose Tesla, it absorbed him. His ideas, his visions, his ways of seeing reality became part of the collective field of human consciousness, radiating outward like invisible waves that continue to touch us even now. In the days that followed, investigators entered his room and found what Tesla left behind: scattered notes, coded sketches, fragments of machines, and unfinished thoughts glowing like embers. But the essence of Tesla, the part that mattered, could not be boxed or archived. It lived in the possibilities he revealed, the boundaries he stretched, the mysteries he illuminated. His body was gone, but his frequency endured. Ideas, he had once said, do not die. They vibrate, they wait, they echo across time until someone else attunes to their signal. And echo they did. Every wireless signal that crosses the air, every alternating current that lights a home, every satellite that speaks across the planet carries a faint signature of Tesla's vision. His dreams of resonance, of global energy, of a peaceful world connected by invisible currents. These were not fantasies, they were seeds. And the world, slowly, quietly, has begun to grow into them. With each new discovery in physics, with each advancement in energy, with each exploration into consciousness, humanity moves one step closer to the horizon. Tesla glimpsed long before anyone else. In the great arc of history, Tesla stands not only as an inventor, but as a reminder of what it means to imagine beyond the limits of the present. He showed that the universe is not a machine to be conquered, but a symphony to be understood. He showed that silence contains answers, that intuition is a form of intelligence, that the world is woven with hidden harmonies waiting to be heard. And he showed that true genius is not noise, but resonance, an inner clarity that vibrates long after the thinker is gone. So Tesla's story ends not with his final breath, but with the quiet continuation of his frequency. Alive in every spark of innovation, every question that challenges the impossible, every mind that dares to listen to the deeper hum beneath reality. For in the end, Tesla did not vanish. He simply returned to the field he had sensed all his life. The luminous, eternal fabric of energy and thought from which all creation arises. And in that infinite resonance, his light still lives.